Dear viewers, immigration rules are frequently changing, which is very important for migrant community and all of us. Why won't the world tackle the refugee crisis? Are the High Court judges under pressure by government policy? How deporting people silently? Why immigration detention center misbehaves with detainees? Is the immigration enforcement used by government lawfully? How immigrants are victim of domestic violence? What will be the UK relationship with the European Union after Brexit? Fear spreads. Protests across the world. We should know the reality. I try to collect all the latest immigration news regularly. If you like this video, please stay with us to follow my Facebook page and YouTube channel, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share with your friends. Let's go to the news. Under the Conservative Manifesto, more elderly people would have to pay for their own social care in the home. Theresa May's flagship manifesto proposal to shake up the funding of social care for older people has come under fire from the Independent Institute for Fiscal Studies and opposition parties. Labour in disarray over the future of the Trident after Emily Thornberry suggests it could be scrapped, leading to a frontbench spat. Labour's nuclear policy is in disarray as a member of the party's frontbench team flatly contradicted a colleague's stance on Trident. Nia Griffith, Labour's shadow defence secretary, said Emily Thornberry, who speaks on foreign affairs for the party, was incorrect to suggest the missile defence system could be scrapped. Ms Griffith insisted Labour was fully committed to the nuclear deterrent. The row overshadowed Jeremy Corbyn's visit to Birmingham, where he today accused Conservatives of risking a war between generations with a manifesto that pitches young against old. Jeremy Corbyn, Theresa May creating war between generations. Labour leader calls on Prime Minister to drop manifesto plans to target pensions, winter fuel allowance and social care. Jeremy Corbyn has accused the Tories of creating a war between generations with a manifesto that pitched young people against older members of society. Ukip suspends election candidate after Nazi tweets spark racism row. Ukip said it was removing its endorsement for Paddy Singh. Ukip has suspended one of its general election candidates over a set of tweets in which he referred to Jews as Nazis. Paddy Singh will continue to be listed as a Ukip candidate on the ballot paper for North Wiltshire in the June 8 election, but the party is withdrawing its endorsement of him. Anti-racism campaigners highlighted tweets by former cavalry officer Captain Singh dating back to 2014, in which he described Israelis as basically Nazis in mentality and said there was no hope of a ceasefire in the Middle East with the Nazi Jews like wild dogs on the rampage. Nicola Sturgeon, Conservatives cannot be trusted to care for our older people. SNP leader Nicola Sturgeon has vowed to defend pensioners in Scotland as she branded Tory policies for the elderly a disgrace. University principal slams UK government's immigration stance. The principal of a Scottish university has launched a blistering attack on the UK government's immigration policies, which he claims are hindering recruitment plans. Professor Craig Mahoney, principal of University of the West of Scotland, has spoken out after a decision was taken to include overseas students in revised UK immigration totals. He said there has already been a drop in the number of non-EU students coming to the UK, and this move will make the situation worse. May to clamp down on immigration with plans to charge migrants more for using NHS. The Conservative Party manifesto will impose extra charges on businesses who employ non-EU workers and hike up charges for migrants who use the NHS. It has been reported a top Tory watered down the Conservatives' latest migration pledge just 8 hours after Theresa May again promised to slash numbers below 100,000. Defence Secretary Sir Michael Fallon said it was an ambition the party planned to meet, while the election manifesto described it as an objective. The Tories were elected in 2010 on a promise to cut net migration. the difference between people arriving and those leaving, to the tens of thousands, a target they have never come close to hitting. Sir Michael told BBC Newsnight, "We haven't set out a formulation of how much it will reduce by each year. What we have set out is our ambition to continue to bear down on immigration." The Tory manifesto retained the target, which has always been missed since being introduced by David Cameron. May's post-Brexit immigration policy could make it difficult for the UK to fill key roles in the food industry. Britain faces having to train an expensive group of animal inspectors after Brexit to replace work currently carried out by European Union staff, but senior vets have warned that the UK may struggle to find enough qualified staff under its strict new immigration policy. Thousands more Britons will be barred from bringing their foreign husbands and wives to the UK, under plans in the Conservative Manifesto. The next Tory government would hike the minimum income requirement, already attacked as particularly harsh by Supreme Court justices. A further crackdown on immigration would also toughen the visa requirements for students, firmly crushing cabinet opposition to including students within the target to reduce incomers. The current threshold to bring in spouses of £18,600, introduced by Theresa May as Home Secretary, has been blamed for inflicting a harsh choice of separation or living in exile on British families. Campaigners have highlighted the plight of up to 15,000 children who have grown up as Skype kids, in order to keep in contact with one of their parents. The manifesto reads, "We will increase the earnings thresholds for people wishing to sponsor migrants for family visas." But it does not set out a new minimum amount. It makes clear that the move would be an attempt to help the Conservatives reach their widely ridiculed target of reducing net immigration to the tens of thousands. "We will, therefore, continue to bear down on immigration from outside the European Union," it says. In 2015, it was estimated that the £18,600 threshold excludes 41% of the British working population from bringing a foreign spouse to live in Britain, including 55% of women. The threshold rises to £22,400 if there is one or more non-European born child in the family, and the income of the non-European partner does not count towards the threshold. In February, the Supreme Court ruled that the minimum income threshold is legal, but warned that it had caused hardship for thousands of couples. Labour has said it would scrap the threshold, stating it does not believe that family life should be protected only for the wealthy. Week in review. The immigration target which isn't meant to be reached. David Cameron went into 2 general elections promising to reduce net migration to the tens of thousands. It was a lie. He never had any policies to achieve the target. He didn't even try. He never had any intention of reaching it. Prime Minister Theresa May has promised a mainstream government that will deliver for mainstream Britain. Launching the Conservative Manifesto, Mrs May said a strong economy and delivering Brexit were top priorities. The manifesto drops the 2015 pledge not to raise income tax or national insurance. It does big changes to social care funding in England. People worth more than £100,000 would have to pay for their care, but could defer payment until after their death. The calculation for people who need care at home will take into account the value of their property. Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn accused the Conservatives of proposing a tax on dementia. BBC political editor Laura Quinsberg said the Conservatives hoped that the new mainstream message would help them scoop up votes in areas where the Conservatives have traditionally been considered toxic. Reality check: Conservative Manifesto on immigration. The claim: Brexit Secretary David Davis has said the Conservatives aim to bring immigration down to sustainable levels as soon as is economically viable. In its manifesto, the party repeated its commitment to reduce annual net migration to less than 100,000. The verdict: there is simply not enough detail in the published proposals to predict their impact on non-EU migration. In terms of migration from the EU, the Conservatives plan to end freedom of movement, but they have yet to set out a policy to replace it. Brexit Secretary David Davis has said the Conservative pledge to bring net migration down to the tens of thousands is a major policy imperative. It is a goal that has existed since the 2010 Conservative Manifesto, but has never been met. Campaign group presses Home Secretary to order full evaluation of right-to-rent immigration status checks by landlords. The government has been threatened with legal action if it presses ahead with the introduction of right-to-rent immigration checks in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland without a full evaluation of their impact. The Conservatives have defended their pledge to cut net migration to tens of thousands after Labour said it would never be met. Treasury Chief Secretary David Gauke told BBC Radio 4's Any Questions it was an aim, it doesn't have a timetable. But he said it would drive policy in terms of improving the skills of British workers. It comes after ex-Chancellor George Osborne said the Tories haven't a clue how they will meet the target. Theresa May's immigration pledge could have catastrophic consequences for the UK economy. The report adds that politicians have failed to challenge the assumption that less immigration would be good for Britain. Reducing immigration to the tens of thousands could have catastrophic consequences for the British economy, according to a new report that derides Theresa May's policy as backward-looking. George Osborne's Evening Standard claims no senior cabinet members back Theresa May on migration pledge. George Osborne's newspaper has claimed that Theresa May's target of cutting net migration to tens of thousands is not backed by anyone in her cabinet on the eve of her manifesto launch. Mr. Osborne, the editor of the London Evening Standard, published a scathing editorial which said the target of reducing net migration to tens of thousands is economically illiterate. Middle-class pensioners to lose benefits under Tory plan to fund social care. Middle-class pensioners are to lose benefits under Conservative plans to fund social care, Theresa May will announce on Thursday. Patients who cannot speak English are given double the appointment time at the GP because it takes so long to translate, doctors have admitted. The government is punishing children for their parents' immigration status. Charity works with migrant families facing destitution and the prospect of their children having to sleep on night buses or in police stations. When the government first introduced its plans to create a hostile environment for migrants, the rhetoric was about immigration control, rather than making people homeless. But recent provisions, including making it illegal for landlords to rent properties to undocumented migrants, banning them from opening bank accounts and cracking down on working without the right documentation, have led to just that. UK needs more immigrants to avoid Brexit catastrophe. Aging population, labour shortages and low productivity mean UK needs net inward migration of 200,000 a year, says think tank. The British economy needs a net inward migration flow of 200,000 people a year, double the Conservative target, if it is to avoid the catastrophic economic consequences linked to Brexit, a study by an employer-backed think tank has said. Britain's cities are falling victim to Theresa May's cold, crabby nostalgia politics. John Harris. Our urban centres are bearing the brunt of the latest austerity cuts. Not since the Thatcher era has a Tory government dared to pit town against country this cynically. The Conservatives' immigration policy damages the economy and tears families apart, and now it's getting worse. Theresa May and Michael Fallon are too afraid to admit to how much it will cost us to cap immigrant numbers. Luckily, I don't share such a fear. Home Office carries out immigration raid in Weston-super-Mare. The Home Office's immigration department carried out a raid in Weston-super-Mare on Sunday, where an Albanian man was arrested. Thank you for staying with me. See you in the next video.